Welcome to the Take Your Power Back show with Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach Kim Yeater. Today's empowering program will encourage you to step into your power, to take action in your leadership, and allow your voice to be heard. Listen in today as we speak to other freedom-loving Americans that are making a positive impact in the world by standing in truth amid adversity. Learn how to take your power back in your freedom, in your personal and professional life, in technology and creativity, and in your faith. Be inspired, be encouraged, be transformed. Together, let's take your power back with our host, Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach, Kim Yeater.
America, this is the moment the truth breaks through. Attorney Scott A. Cudler of the Cudler Law Firm has formally filed a post-conviction petition for declaratory relief of actual innocence in the Los Angeles Superior Court, Department 107, on behalf of Don Bohana. After 25 years of wrongful imprisonment, newly discovered irrefutable evidence now proves prosecutorial misconduct, judicial complicity, and unlawful influence by the Jackson family and their attorney, Brian Oxman, now disbarred, that railroaded an innocent man, Don Bohana. Don, a well-educated, respected community leader, devoted father, family man, and United States Army military veteran, was convicted of second-degree murder in the accidental drowning of Dolores D.D. Jackson, Tito Jackson's ex-wife and Michael Jackson's sister-in-law. Her death was originally ruled undetermined accident 3 years before the criminal case. The Jackson family civil lawsuit against him collapsed, yet they still pushed forward. Despite refusing every plea deal and standing unwavering on his innocence, Don Bohana spent a quarter century behind bars for a crime he did not commit. This petition today demands the court declare him factually and legally innocent, vacate the conviction, publicly name every complicit official, and refer the entire matter to the California Attorney General for independent review and disciplinary action. I'm your host, Peak Performance Master Coach Kim Yeater, and I'm joined today by my co-host, justice advocate and author of Muzzled Truth, Ronald F. Owens Jr. Ronald, welcome to the Take Your Power Back show, and take it away.
Kim Yeater, tonight, we're not whispering. We are roaring the truth. Matter of fact, we're going to unmuzzle the truth. This is bigger than one man. It's about a system that buried an innocent human being while the powerful walked free. Don Bohana never broke. His faith never wavered. His voice was never silenced. Don, brother, welcome to the show. The nightmare ends here. America is finally listening.
Don Bohana, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to participate on the Take Your Power Back program. This is an appropriate program for me because it has all sorts of situations where people have lost their power and gained their power back by talking, by bringing the truth out, and not being failure to do so, and people that deserve to be heard. And again, I can't thank this program, Take Your Power Back, anymore for giving me this opportunity to finally tell the world how misguided our criminal justice system, especially in Los Angeles County, tell you how the Los Angeles County, without any thought about it, felt it necessary to advance their careers, to and put a person that's totally innocent, which they knew was totally innocent, but to advance their career, to put them on various friendly places. I think it's interesting that people should know that 5 major lawyers in the major crime unit of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, 5 major attorneys refused to prosecute me, and it waited 3 years until they found someone in a lesser court, i.e. the Inglewood Municipal Court, to file a charge against me that through corruption, I was just railroaded and wrongfully convicted. Evidence was planted. People were paid off. And it's just our criminal justice system in Los Angeles particularly needs a thorough overhaul, and possibly the federal government needs to look at the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office from top to bottom. I'm sure I'm not the first person that's found myself in this predicament, but what I do know that I was probably the first person that in a high profile case where a conviction was actually purchased. And I say purchased at some time during this program or later on, you'll find out that how the Los Angeles County purchased a conviction with the help of the Jackson family and others.
Well, Don, we are hearing it all across the state and now across the entire country. Fraud and corruption across this state of California. We've heard President Trump shouting it out in the past week, all the way through today. And I got to tell you, it is an absolute honor to have you here with us today. And what we're going to do, Don, is we're going to go for a deep dive right now. No scripts, no filters, just the truth, because the truth is good enough. Let's begin on the road to vindication. Don, tell us a little bit about who you are, your personal family background, and where you grew up.
Yeah, thank you. I was born in Los Angeles, California, on July 21st, 1936. It's 5 of us, and have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I was educated in the Los Angeles Unified School District, graduating from Los Angeles High School. Then I ended up going into the military at the tail end of the Korean War. Most of the fighting had stopped, and I ended up in the military for 2 years. I served my time gyroscoping into Alaska. Then we went to the Aleutian Islands, and then we came back to Fort Richards, Alaska, which I was discharged out of there. After getting out of the Army, I realized I had to get an education, so I enrolled at LA City College and went to LA City College and then to Cal State Los Angeles, then went over to UCLA, and finally graduating and getting my degree in 1965. Then I went and got a master's out of Pepperdine, 1968, and an MBA in business. And that was my education in Los Angeles. In my high school and college, I played football and ran track, and I was on a wrestling team. I love sports, and I was always participating in sports, but I realized I was not going to make the Rams as a quarterback. And after high school, when I was in college, I met my soon-to-become wife, Sheila, and we got married in 1965, and I had two daughters, Donna and Marla. Prior to that, when I was in the service, I had a brief marriage while I was in Alaska. And then from there was a lady by the name of Myrna Loy Dean. Myrna and I were high school sweethearts, I guess you would call it. And then after I was in Alaska, Myrna came over to Alaska, and we did get married. And from that marriage, there was two daughters born, Toy and Trina. And shortly after getting out of the service, Myrna and I both realized that we were too young to be married, and so we separated about maybe a month or 2 months after I got out of service. And I always took care of my daughters, even the ones that were born in Alaska. I worked two jobs and also was in college at the same time to make child support payments to her. But so everything worked out. Finally, the Toy and Trina became, it was just part of the family, and I took care of them. And there was no really hard feelings, and never any, let's say, domestic violence or anything like that. We just realized that we said it ourselves. We were just too young to get married, but didn't know how to not get married. I guess that's the best way of putting it. So then I was in college, and I met Sheila, and we married. We dated for approximately 3 years while I was in college, and then we married in 1965. And we didn't have any children until 1969, excuse me. After I had on my feet, I had bought a home and finished all my military obligations, and I was pretty much established in business. And so we built a family relationship then. After approximately 11 years, we found out that we were not really, we're better off to friends than being married. And the reason that is very simple. Business-wise, you're on call almost every day, 24 hours. You have meetings to go to, political functions to go to, dinners to go to, and that wasn't what Sheila bought in for. Sheila was a Southern lady, and she was more interested in a husband that's home at 5 o'clock, and you watch TV and do things together, and that just wasn't what business was like. So we divorced, but Sheila and I remained friends ever since the divorce. So some people did not believe we were divorced, because we'd go to church together, take the kids together, we'd travel together, but we just were not married together, And so that was my.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. I love hearing how you guys could actually raise your family together. There wasn't, this bitterness, this resentment, that it was copacetic. You guys were a family still. That's powerful. Don, let me ask you this. Would you tell me just your journey to success? Like, tell me a little bit about your educational background. What were your major professional accomplishments, and how did you become a multi-millionaire?
Okay, we didn't get that. Yes, I can do that. Yes. You want to start by when after college, I took a job. I was been interested in healthcare administration. So in the 60s, after the Watts riots, there were just all kinds of positions open for minorities in the healthcare field, which I feel had been closed. So I went to work for the University of Southern California. And after USC, I started making a name for myself in the healthcare administration. And I was continually being promoted or being grappled by headhunters to take a position here or position there. So I moved up to a hospital administrator pretty fast. in so doing, I was extremely well paid. And rather than throwing money away, Sheila and I were married at that time, and we just saved money. So my first big break after my hospital, I wanted to go into business for myself, and I got that idea because my aunt owned what was known as the Blanchette Beauty Salon on Central Avenue, and she took care of all the major Hollywood, Black Hollywood actresses, Ethel Waters and Hattie McDaniels and all that. And I would go into the shop, and I was enthused watching the cash register work and seeing how all the cash was coming. And my aunt told me, say, well, Don, if you want to really make it, go into business for yourself. And so that bug came into me. I was about 12, 15 years old, because I would love to spend the time with my aunt because she had such an enormous home. It seemed like it had just a bucket full of money all the time. And so I got the business bug very early, and I started saving. So as I moved up and wanted to go into business for myself, I was working for American Medical Services. I was running back and forth from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, where I was running their American Medical Services in Vegas. And I met Steve Wynn and some of the higher echelon players in Las Vegas, and I watched how they were running. And I remember Steve, when he bought the Golden Nugget, how he did that on a new shoestring.
Mm-hmm.
I started just watching how the people were saving their money and then investing it. And then from there, I took on the Orange County Rapid Transit District, then into our printing industry. Then I went into the movie industry, where the IATSE, the International Association of Stage Employees. So I kept growing and growing. Then I created a health plan called Western Benefit Plan. And it was a prepaid health plan, since I knew the insurance administration fairly well and knew how insurance worked. So I started selling that, and I was selling that through a company in Chicago called Supreme Life Insurance Company. And every policy was health and welfare, and my commission on that was 28% of the premium. And you get several millions of dollars of premium. You can see that's a fairly decent income. So I was doing that, and I didn't have a large staff, but I had an efficient staff. What my theory there was to get good people and pay them well, instead of stacking and have mediocre people, and where you're not going to get a lot of productivity. So with that, I continued and growing. Then my next thing, I wanted to buy a building to house my operation. And I figured that if I bought this building, two things would happen. I'm paying over $5,000 a month in lease payments. But if I bought the building, I would be able to put my people there. And then I had bought a 2-story building. Then I rented the top floor out, so the top floor rental paid enough money to cover my mortgage payment and still give me a little excess income. So I started just using my brains of putting business together and maximizing the income. So when that came about, I mentioned I was working, selling my insurance to Supreme Life in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, why not buy an insurance company myself? So I knew California Life Insurance Company was in tremendous debt. They had just floated a $20 million debenture, and I knew there was no way in the world that they were going to be able to pay it, because the insurance regulators were all over them. So I approached the president of the company over lunch one day, and I said, you guys ever think about selling the company? And he said, yeah, we've been thinking about trying to do merge with another company, or selling, because it was a publicly traded company on the Pacific Coast Stock Exchange. Then I found out there was not only a Pacifico Stock Exchange, it was also an American Stock Exchange. So I said, well, let me figure out how to do a leverage buyout. So I looked at the assets of the company, and I said, I can leverage the assets, get a big enough loan, and do a leverage buyout and use the income from the sales from the insurance business to pay the debentures off. But the trick was I had to buy enough debentures to control whether or not someone could block me on the merger. So what I did there, I arranged to buy the debentures. I remember I bought $15 million worth of debentures, and that controlled what the stockholders or they could be couldn't call in the bonds, because I owned all the bonds. I owned the majority of the bonds, and so if somebody wanted to blow me out there, they would have to buy my bonds, and I would sell them at a premium. So I knew that they couldn't do that. So I ended up doing a leverage buyout, and I bought California Life, and I closed the deal in 1980. And there was so much controversy on that. It was the first minority to buy a company like that off of the stock exchange. And it was really a dance. And I got to tell you this: when I needed to close the sale, I told you I did it on leverage buyout. I went a week before, 4 or 5 days before closing. I went to my banker downtown, and he said, "Don, the numbers don't work because you need $9 million more to satisfy and then pay back the other people on the debentures." I said, "Okay." His name was George Moody. George passed away. He was the president of Security Pacific National Bank. So I called George at home, and I said, "George, I need to see you tomorrow morning." I met him at 7 o'clock, and I said, "George, what I'm going to tell you, it's going to be, you're not going to believe it." I said, "But I need you to lend me $9 million."
That's amazing. Amazing.
Wow.
Just on my signature. He looked at me and he said, "Don, are you crazy?" I said, "George, I need $9 million, and I guarantee you get it back in a week." And I said, "As soon as I close, it goes right back to you." And he looked at me and said, "I believe you." Okay, so he called. George's office was on I believe, on the 72nd floor of the Security Pacific Bank, downtown Los Angeles. He called on the 54th floor and told the guys to make me this $9 million loan. They didn't want to do it. They said, "This is crazy," because it was unsecured.
Right.
And I didn't have $9 million, but I knew how it was going to work. So they made the loan, and we had a closing. And I've never been in a closing like this where there must have been at least 50 lawyers there, because there were so many contingencies on it. And we had to sign all this, but it was amazing. Most amazing thing I ever done in business is being in on a closing on when the stock market's involved.
Yes.
It was amazing. But there's one other thing. When they told me that I needed the $9 million, I was with my attorney, Michael K, and we were dejected. And Michael said, "I'll meet you down in the lobby." I walked 54 floors down, and Mike took the elevator. I said, "No, I need to think."
Oh, wow. Wow.
By the time I got down to the first floor, after walking 54 floors down, I figured out what I was going to do. And that led me to call George, because I started thinking, I said, "What are my chances? I got to get to George to make this deal work." And that's what led me to call him at home that night. It's been an amazing journey. But so when I bought that company, then I knew some other guys, Paul Harrison. So we wanted to start a bank Guardian Bank. So we started a bank called Guardian Bank on 8th and Figueroa. We built it from scratch up. It was 11 of us. Each one of us put in $1 million for the bank. We had our first organizational meeting in my office at Cal Life. And we pursued the bank. And one of the things, I learned so much by even buying the vault for a bank and setting a bank up. It's just the most amazing thing you could ever do in life is start from scratch on something, the stationery, there's just everything. So we finally got the bank open in 82, yeah. And then we opened 2 other branches, a branch in Orange County, 2 branches in Orange County, one Newport and one in another part of it. So we had 3 branches. Our basic way of operating, we came up was be interim lenders. And that was, instead of trying to compete with the B of A's and the securities and the Wells Fargo, we became interim lenders. Now, interim lenders is that if you're going to build a major office building or a major apartment building, you go to an insurance company or savings and loan and get a takeout loan, but they're not going to give you the money to build the building. So our thing was, we'll lend you the money to build the building. We will charge you the interest up front, and then when the takeout, when we know that you're going to have a takeout loan because you've already negotiated that. When the building is completed and you get the certificate of occupancy, we get all our money back, and we've already collected the interest. So that was our thing. And the way we would keep deposits, we made deals with the escrow title insurance, because if you buy a house or an apartment or anything, you put money in escrow. So we would go to the escrow companies and get the escrow companies to deposit the money in the bank and in our bank. And then what does that do? That boost up our revenue.
Sure.
And we'd have money to lend to deposit. Now, we would lend just like we'd finance a car, we'd finance anything just like the B of A's and security. But our niche was interim financing. Now, that was good until when the housing market struck us, and it started getting bad just as I was went to prison in 1998. A lot of the borrowers could not get the takeout loan because the savings and loans and the insurance companies were not now making loans because the housing market was breaking. So that led us to merge with Lincoln Savings. So we got out of the business, but when the merger came up, I was incarcerated. However, when we came out, our stock, I'll give you an example. Our original stock price was $10 a share. And at the time I went into prison, it was $28 a share. And I had, hundreds and hundreds of shares. And so it was a good investment. But needless to say, when I was wrongfully convicted, I lost all of that, everything. But I enjoy, really get turned on business because I feel I know business. I just like the challenge of it's like a football player playing football. Give me a business problem or something you can't. If you tell me it can't be done, I'll tell you how to do it. That's my attitude. If you say it can't, I'll show you how to do it.
Clearly, we can see that. And would you tell our audience, Don, this is so important. How old are you presently?
I'm 89. I'll be 90 next month.
That is absolutely really happy birthday. That's incredible. It says so much about you.
I always said that, and I really believe this. God kept me alive to be able to say what I'm saying and hopefully bring the attention to how our broken our criminal justice system. And everything I'm saying is proven by independent, third-party written evidence. I don't have to say nothing. It's there. The people were so sloppy that they just didn't realize I'd be able to figure it out. But they had another reason they didn't think I'd figure it out. I had Harlan Brown, who was a well-known defense attorney, and he had such a reputation that other than throwing my case, people thought he was just could walk on water. So every time I would approach a law firm, a legitimate, they would say, "Oh, well, Harlan's a good lawyer. Harlan's a good." He wouldn't do anything like that.
Mhm.
Well, it's going to come out that Harlan threw my case, and he literally admits that he threw it. So anyway, they knew that I would have difficulty getting a law firm to challenge Harlan. Moreover, with not that, they figured I would have a hard time figuring out how they did it, which I did. But as the pieces started coming together, and then I would send my daughters out, particularly Donna, to gather the information, ask Marta together, my sister, my brother. We investigated the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, the Maryland Medical Examiner's Office, where this Dr. Posey stated he worked. We found out all this was just all BS. And the county never vetted him, but they let him get away with this. So yeah, I figured that I didn't figure this out until 2014. So I went in prison in 1998, and I finally unequivocally knew it by 2014. And then from 2014, it took me another 3 years to get someone to listen. And finally, ABC 2020 listened to me, talked to me, came out to visit me, and even I didn't have a lawyer. They could see what I was saying was true. And they put on a 2020 special, and a 2-hour special, but it didn't move the needle anymore because, again, there was so much corruption within the district attorney's office that it was just, you couldn't get through to them. They just didn't believe it. They would tell you all kinds of lies. Jackie Lacey, anyone would say anything they wanted to say just to circumvent the truth, although they knew the truth. So it took a little while, but when my big break came when Tom Nolan, who had been recruited and talked to my daughter, Donna, he looked into this, and he was with Latham and Watkins, a very prominent law firm, and they really started an investigation. Then they presented this to the district attorney's office. They were surprised that he came up with this information, but they still didn't want to move on it. They came up with saying unethical things, and they tell you, actually, one of the attorneys, Bobby Grace, said it would take them 1 year to research a wrongful conviction. Can anybody tell me why it would take 1 year, something that with all the best brains supposedly in the world in the DA's office, to research something that I did from a prison cell? I don't get it. But anyway.
Excuse me, Don. Yeah, you're kind of segueing to the next question I wanted to ask you. This has really taken a personal toll on you and your family. It's been a more than 30-year ordeal. How has this saga affected your brothers, your daughters, their mother, your family? Please share that personal aspect of your story. Thank you, sir.
Well, the wrongful conviction, the day I was convicted on July 2nd, 1998, my daughter Donna left the courtroom, and no one saw her for about 2 weeks. Well, she had gone up to Las Vegas, where she knew I had a lot of connections there, and she just stayed up there. We had a home up there I had purchased years and years ago when they were just kids. But you have to understand, Donna, after my divorce, Donna stayed with me from the time she was born till the time I went to prison. Nothing wrong with Sheila. It was just one of the girls wanted to stay with me, and one of them stayed with Sheila. But they went back and forth. But in Donna's case, she did stay with me until we were 22 when I went to prison. I went through, I could tell you anything about it. So it affected her tremendously. Marla, it affected her. They couldn't believe it. I remember Marla called her from jail, and one of the first things she mentioned to me, she says, "Well, who's going to help us now?"
Wow.
And I had a buddy named Mike Alexander, and Mike called Marla and said, "I'm here to help you now," because they didn't have to take the cars to the shop or get gas in the car or fix the radiator or whatever. And that was a tremendous thing. Like all of a sudden they're on their own. But that was the first thing she told me. She said, "Well, who's going to help us now?" And that stuck with me a lot, a whole lot. But they when they emptied the house out, I don't know what happened to a lot of my stuff. I lived in a 5-bedroom, $1 million home, and I don't know what happened to the stuff. It's irrelevant now, but it was a tremendous shock to them, very much so.
Can imagine. John, let's go back to your marriage for a second. We've learned a lot in what you've already said. Now, you were married again for how long? And I know that when you were going through all the court stuff, you had these accusers that were claiming that there was domestic violence in your marriage. Now, I know I can even hear the background. We've got the dogs in the background. You've got your ex-wife there. You helped take care of her. It sounds like you guys still have a great relationship. So give us some insight.
Good question.
Yeah, I can answer. Yeah, Sheila and I have always had a great relationship. There's never been any domestic violence in my. I didn't know how to say relationship violence. Every marriage has a difficulty, but mine was really cute. When if there was a difference of opinion with Sheila and I would generally grab the Wall Street Journal and I would sit up and start reading. I never yell. I haven't yet to ever yell at Sheila. I have never cursed at her, and she hasn't cursed at me. She has raised her voice at me. But what I would do, I'd grab the paper, and that seemed to be what make her just more angry if I start reading. Then after I started reading, then I would take the kids and say, "Let's go down to." I think it was Baskin Robbins, not too far from the house.
Okay.
But there's no domestic violence at all. Now, what people they said when Sheila testified, they looked up my divorce, and Sheila when she filed for divorce, she called the Los Angeles police and thought I would be angry and may want to yell or something. But then she told him, and I said, "No." She said, "I just did that. I called and say that he may get mad or something, and would they come out to the house?" But they never came out, and I never got mad. I didn't particularly wasn't looking for a divorce, but I understood, and I moved out of the house and started living at the Marina City Club. And then after our property settlement, we remained friends. Sheila went and bought another house with her money, and I moved back into the house that we had together. And that's probably the reason Donna just stated she didn't want to leave her house. And so, never been anything. I used to deliberately, when she would be upset, if I'm at a meeting or something, I'd come home and get the Wall Street Journal, and I'd sit on the chair there and read it. And the kids would come around and sit at my feet, and I'd be talking to them. and I wouldn't be saying anything to her. So no, never any domestic
That's
violence.
funny, the way we all deal with conflict. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And it's funny because you are such a gentle man. I've had the privilege, and Ron as well, of sitting with you and getting to know you. And just even the heart that you have today, clearly, there's not even a bitter, resentful bone in you.
No.
Having been wrongfully imprisoned for 25 years, it just says so much about your character. Now, let's reverse for a second. So, we talked about your relationship, your background, your education, and how you became a millionaire. Brilliant mind, still all your faculties at 89 years old, Don Bohana. And let's now talk about Dolores Jackson. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that relationship began? And for our listeners, Dolores Jackson is the sister-in-law of Michael Jackson and the ex-wife of Michael Jackson's brother, Tito. So tell us a little bit about that relationship with Dolores.
Yes, by all means. I met, I never forget the night I met Dolores. I think somewhere like May the 7th, 8th. I'm an avid baseball fan, and I go to the baseball game literally every night the Dodgers were in. I had 4 seats, but then when the kids got bigger, they stopped going to game with me. So I would go to the Dodger Stadium, and I generally eat dinner in the Stadium Club, and I would leave there and go home. Friends that knew me, they knew I'd be at the game if the Dodgers were there. Well, this one friend, Clifton Wright, called me on a Friday night, and he said, I didn't answer the phone because I wasn't there. But when I got home from the game about 9:30, my light was blinking, and I answered and said, "This is Cliff Wright. There's a lady here wants to meet you. She's heard of you and would like to meet you." And that was the message. He said, "I'm gonna call you when I think you're home from the game." About 10 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was Cliff. And he says, "Hey, I got this lady here knows of you, wants to meet you, and why don't you come down to Little Jay's?" I said, "Oh no," I said, "I just left Dodger Stadium. I passed the places on Figueroa, and I think around 10th, 9th, and 10th of Figueroa." And I said, no, I'm not going out. I said, "I'm at home now." And so I hear these ladies giggling in the background. And I said, "No, I won't go. And I'm not coming out." So I said, I'll call you later, And so I hung up the phone. I said, "I'll call you later," or something like that. I think I told him I'd call him later. So anyway, about 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Cliff again. He said, "Here, this lady wants to meet you." She gave us her. And I didn't know who it was. And she says, "My name is Dee Dee. I heard about you. I want to meet you." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "but I just left that area and I'm not coming back out." And so she talked. I could tell that she and Cliff and other girls had been partying, whatever. And so I said, "I'm sorry, I missed out on this one." I know that was my word. I said, "I know I missed out on this one." So I hung up and watched the news, the 10 o'clock news. Must have been about 12:30, and my phone rang again. And it was her this time without Cliff. She's like, "Got your phone number from your friend." And she said, "Why don't you come out just for have a cocktail with us?" I said, "No, I told you, it's 12:30. And and I said, I'll just talk to you some other time. I missed out on this." I said, "But I was actually in bed." So she hung up, and then about 2:00 or thereabout, my phone rang again, and it's her. And I could tell she was pretty much inebriated. And I'm not trying to say that something's wrong with it, but this is what the facts. So she says to me, "Why don't you? I wanted to meet you. Why don't you come over?" And I said, "Where do you live?" she says, I live in Sherman Oaks. I said, oh, hell no. I'm not coming way to Sherman Oaks to meet nobody. And then I said, I'm sorry. I said, it's just, I'm sorry. We'll meet you this time. And, maybe we run it some other time. I kid you.
Don, it sounds like, hold on one second. I'm going to come right back to you for a second. It sounds like you were really focused in on your business, your family, your relationship. You didn't have time for these late night things. You were structured. You had schedule. You're like, that's completely outside of the schedule. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. So anyway, about 3:00, she, no, maybe it was that phone call. I said, where? And she told me Sherman Oaks. And I said, oh, hell no. And then she said, then I think I said, what is your phone number? I'll call you tomorrow or something. And she did give me a phone number. And then it came Saturday. About 6 or 7 o'clock, I called her. I said, let me call this person. I called her about 6 or 7. And then she apologized profusely for calling me so many times.
Was that 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning or later on that evening, Don?
No. I called her that evening, about 7 o'clock that evening.
Okay.
Yeah, that evening. And then and that would have been Saturday. I said, well, she apologized. I said, well, she said, I'd like to meet you. I said, well, I'm going to the baseball game tomorrow afternoon at the Dodgers start at 1 o'clock. I said, but I go to 9:30 mass, and I won't be back home until about 10:30, 11:15. I said, I don't have time to come to the Valley. So she said, well, I can get over your place, and I'll meet you at your house if you give me your address. I said, okay, I did. So anyway, I got home from mass about 10:45. I would come at 11. There was a note on my door, and said I came in the neighborhood. I'm driving around looking at the homes, and so about 5-10 minutes later, my doorbell rang, and it was her. So she walked in. I remember she had on a yellow suit, and so we just small talk, and I had pictures of Donna and Marla in my family room. And she says, who those? I said, those are my daughters. And she says, I have 3 boys myself. I said, oh. And then I said, this is not what Cliff told me. So I myself.
Hold on, Don. Hold on. You cracked me up.
I went in the kitchen.
You're a businessman in your head. Go on.
I called Cliff and I said, Cliff, I thought you said this was I said, this lady got kids older than Donna and Marla. And he says, well, what does she look? I said, am I being set up? He said, what does she look like? And I kind of described her. He said, well, sound like her. I said, what are you doing? He said, nothing. I said, yes, you are. You're going to the baseball game with me. I said, how long will it take you to get over here? He said, oh, about a half an hour. I said, okay. So he got dressed and came over, and he when I opened the door, they started, so I could tell that they knew each other. So we all went to the baseball game. That would be that Sunday. Then at 9, we left the game and drove back to my house. And Cliff asked me, said, am I just excused now? I said, yeah. So then she said, I think I said, what do you want to do now? And now it's about 5:30. I said, well, I'll take you out to Marina Del Rey to the Villa Tosco, the little Mexican restaurant. We go out there and had some margaritas and some food, whatever it was. And we sat up there until about 9 o'clock. And then I said, well, I'm time that I got to go home. And so I leave Marina Del Rey and I get on the 90 freeway because you got that cords into the 405. And I said, I'll take you on home now. And she said, do I have to go home right now? I said, yeah. I said, I got to get up there in the morning. I got work to do. And so she said, well, I can get up early in the morning. Let me come over, So and the mistake I made, I allowed her to come over. And then about 4 in the morning, 4:30, I take her home to the valet and then drive back to home, shower, and then get ready to go to work. I still don't know her name, though, other than Dolores. I don't have any connection that she's a Jackson. Then I think
So Don, I do have a question for you. So let's just pause there for a second, because there's a lot going on in my head. I'm sure our listeners' head right now. So she comes over, and you said you bring her back at 4. So what'd you guys do? Did you hang out? Did you play cards? Did you?
No, she came. She spent the night with me. Yeah.
Okay, so she spent the night with you. All right, so you guys were intimate. You were intimate. You got to know her a little bit, I'm assuming.
Well, not really, but yeah, we were, but not really know her. Yeah.
You didn't really know her, but
right. No, I don't.
Intimate time with her. Got it. Okay, so there you were, 4 o'clock in the morning. You bring her home, and then
I come back and I go to work, and then I think I didn't talk to her that following. That would be a Monday. Maybe I spoke with her Tuesday, or maybe she called. I don't remember the details of that. I do remember the next Friday, she came over on a Friday. She was working for David Guest, and she came by my house Friday, and she stayed there until Saturday afternoon, and then that was the second. Then the next week I was out of town, and then the following week she came over on a Friday, and I had to go to Jackie, my lady who cuts my hair. I got up Saturday morning, and I said, I'm going over to Jackie's house so Jackie can come in. I said, would you like to go with me? And she said, yeah. So I go over to Jackie's place, not too far from where I live. And Jackie has a little boy named John Tate, and I've known him since he was born. Jackie's a single lady, but I've known John Tate since he was born. So he walk in there, and he had his kid radio television program, and he said, Don, I'm doing the Michael Jackson. Look at me. And he's about 5 years old. And I just lit it. I said, Jackie, don't you let that boy be like that queer, that this and that. I just went off. I said all kinds of horrible things. And I didn't know that she was a member. So she sat there and listened. I was a child molester, everything. So when I got ready to leave, I paid Jackie. We got to the door, Jackie closed the door. She said, Don, I'd like to talk to you about something. I said, okay. I said, let's go around the corner. My friend Harold, who owns a restaurant called the Serving Spoon, I said, he'll give me a table right away. So we go around there, and I get to Harold's place, and I knew some people in there. I spoke with them, and then sit down with her. She says to me, do you know my name? I said, yeah, Dolores Jackson. She said, well, why were you saying such horrible things about my brother-in-law? I said, then at that time I looked startled. I said, are you a member of that family? She said, yeah, I was married to Tito, and Michael's my brother-in-law. I said, well, I apologize for what I said in front of you, but I still feel the same way. I said, I'm just, I said, but I do apologize for what I said, but I still feel that feeling. That was the first, and I had known her a month and never connected the dots that she was a member of the family. That's how I found out.
Wow.
But what a story.
And then, that's how I found out she was. I had no idea. She was just Dolores, and I didn't ask. My Jackie, but my barber, her name is Jackie Jackson. But just it's a common name.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is in the Black
absolutely.
community. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that she kept that from you, Don, because she just wanted you to accept her how she was and not her familial connections?
It could be, but I never, I'll give you another example. After I found out who she was, she invited me out to Michael's. She invited me there too, but out to his house in Havenhurst. He gets these first one movies. So she asked me to come out there and watch a movie at a movie theater. So I went there, but the very next weekend, Janet was having a concert in Orange County or something. She asked me to go, and I said no. I said I'm not into that kind of thing. I said I don't. She said they were caravanning or something out to the concert. I said no, I'm not. That's not me. I said I'm not into this music kind of thing. So. And I believe she asked me in front of my daughter, Donna. She must have been at my house. And Donna said, "Oh, I'd like to go." And so I said, "Well, I'll let Donna go, but I won't go." So so I did end up driving Donna out to Michael's place in Havenhurst, and they said they would bring her home.
How old was Donna at the time?
Huh?
How old was Donna at the time?
Donna at the time was 20 or 21.
Okay, yeah, young adult. Michael Jackson back then. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have a question too. Did you or Donna? Did you guys ever meet Michael Jackson?
No, I never met him. I met all of the others, not him.
Including Janet. You met Janet.
He had an affair at Neverland Ranch. I went out there and took Donna. I don't know, maybe Donna was, because she would go, Dolores would take Donna with her on various and Sunday places that I allowed her to do it. I don't think Donna did. No, I'd have to ask her. But I let her ride with, let Donna go with her various Sunday. But I just told her, I'm not into that Hollywood style. That's not me. So I never did go into any of that kind of stuff.
Don, did you ever notice, pick up on any of the dynamics of Dolores with Janet or some of the Jackson family members? What was that dynamic like?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I remember I went out to the Havenhurst place, and there was Tito, Jermaine, and Jackie. They have a studio right adjacent to the house, and they were in there, and I think Randy. And I looked at them, and they looked so slovenly, just walking around like zombies, or not like men, And so I remember coming to my father. I said, because my father now I know who they were. I said, I'm so glad that I wasn't raised like those kids. And I was telling them, I said, Dad, they walk around like, they couldn't turn a screwdriver or change a light bulb, or just it lazy. I guess that's the kind of word I want to use. Just useless, Other than probably singing and dancing, just useless. That's it's just I saw that. Just wasn't no get up and go. Like, I don't know.
A lack of, it sounds like, when you say useless, it sounds like a lack of purpose. Like there was no real drive and purpose in just everyday life.
Right. Yeah, that's what,
Ron, let's transition. Let's dig a little deeper right now. Let's talk about that. What's that next question in regards to Dolores?
Oh yeah, you want to
tell us, Don, the night everything changed.
Okay,
walk with us through what happened of the night of Dolores Jackson's drowning. How did you? Maybe I'll just stop it there.
Okay.
Yeah, we can. I don't want to throw too much at you because I want to.
Yeah, and so let me just back up for a second. So it sounds like, just putting the pieces together, you guys had a friendship, you were building a relationship, you were getting to know her, you realized that, it was disclosed she's a Jackson. She invited you to a couple of family events, and they weren't really your cup of tea. some of these things, like the concert, Janet Jackson, all of that. But you were getting to know her family, your daughter, got to experience the Michael Jackson concert. So we know that there was a building of the relationship with Dolores. And
Okay, yeah.
from
Okay, I can do. So now, the first time, I remember she invited me to go out to Neverland Ranch, and I went out there. That was for her son's birthday, having a party out there, and so we went out there, and they have a bunch of these little houses on the ranch, and so she said, we could just everyone's gonna spend the night at the ranch, so I did. So we went there, and it was a I never, this is not my lifestyle. So I saw the little railroad train, and rode the train. They had animals around there. And quite frankly, I had read about how Michael had molested these kids inside this theater and this bed in a movie theater. And when they were showing a movie in this theater, and I, to be honest, I was more interested in looking to how would this guy, his bed was sitting in the back of the theater. Why would he do that openly in this place here? I think I was intrigued on the openness of how the people act around it. They had this thing where you, if you wanted no pictures, but if you want to take a picture, you had to use their camera and Polaroid, and they would check the photos that you take. So anyway, I went at the with Dolores, and I can't say, use the word building a relationship. I don't quite think that was it. I don't know what it was, but I figured out early that we were from two different stocks. In other words, I wasn't comfortable with the Jackson family. I could go out with her. We had fun when we went out, but I quickly realized that this is not something that I would want on a long-term basis. She was fun to be around. She was a nice-looking young lady. But as far as any further than that, I just don't see it. I didn't see it at the time. But the night of the accident, let's get into that. My daughter Donna was planning to get married. She told me in June or July of the year before I met Dolores. And so I had been helping Donna plan what she wanted for a wedding and so forth and so on. She told me she had wanted to have a reception at the Bel Air Hotel, so I had paid $20,000 to reserve the room at the Bel Air Hotel. She had told me that she wanted to have this and that. And so the night, one evening, Dolores, about 2 weeks ago, Dolores was taken around to find flowers and other things that she wanted. And then my house was a very nice house, but it had a tinge of a bachelor's place in a lot of respects. I was a car collector. I had cars all up and stuff like that, painting the cars. So I had bought a picture that Donna wanted me to put up, and I needed it framed properly. So I called Dolores. This was on the night of the accident. I said, do you know anyone who can frame a picture for me right away? And she said, yeah, I got a guy named Pablo over near the Beverly Center. So she said, let me call him. So she called him, and he said, yeah, he'll do it. And you bring it over right now. You pick it up about 7, 8 o'clock. So I brought it over there, and then I went back to Paris. Dolores had called me several times during the day and asked me, had I gone eaten anything? No, I hadn't. I got up that morning. I took Donna downtown to a jewelry store and bought her a necklace and some other jewelry junk. And then I went by one of my tenants places and I met with a tenant and just kind of piddled around. And then I came back, was working on changing the house from not a bachelor's place, but getting some of these artifacts moved. And then when Dolores had Pablo do the painting, she called me. She said, "Have you had anything to eat?" I said, "No, I've just been busy all day." So she said, "Let me bring you something to eat." I said, "No." And I said, "No, this is on my child's right." I said, "No, I don't want anything. I don't want you to come by because I get distracted." So that must have been about 8 o'clock. Then about 9, she called me again. She said, "Well, let me just bring you a sandwich or something." And she said, "Well, I'll stop and bring you a sandwich." So she did. She gets to my house about 9:30 or 9:45. I had a ladder up where I was putting a picture up. And so she came in, brought me the sandwich. I sit down at my table and she says, "May I have a drink?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You know where the bar is? You go eat pictures up. Do you want anything?" "No, I don't want anything." And she said, "I'm going to go have a cigarette. I don't have any smoking in my house." So she went out to the pool area and smoked. Then she came back in the house and she said, she'd been out there about a half an hour, maybe less than half an hour, I don't know. She said, "Why don't you take a rest and go into the, let me turn on the jacuzzi and relax a minute." I said, "No, I don't want it because I got too much to do. I'm still working." There were 300 people going to be at my house the following Sunday for Donna's little bridal shower.
Mm-hmm.
And so she turned on the jacuzzi, and then I went out there on my own volition. She didn't force me. And we got in the jacuzzi. I stopped my work and got this one picture hung. And so then we sit there and start talking. I had a glass of wine, Bell Harbor's White Zinfandel. And we sit there and talk, and then I start swimming to the back and forth to the light at the end of the pool. I poured some wine in a glass, and I was showing her how it would stay floating in the jacuzzi. And when she picked it up, it broke on the coping, and I was, oh my goodness, the glass broke. So I took a bag, put the glass in the bag, and just left it sitting adjacent to the pool. We'd gone back and forth, and at the time, Dolores was drinking rum and Coke, and all I know is that when the sheriffs got there, they found a bottle, full liter, I guess, of rum and Coke had been, she had drank all of that. I didn't have a drink of rum or anything other than that wine. And the sheriff testified that they found the 2 bottles of Bacardi there. Anyway, so I had gotten out of the pool because it was the hot, cold water. I felt a little, not dizzy, but I felt that, I've been in the water long. So I went and sit adjacent to the pool. Dolores stayed in the pool, and then she swam to the end of the pool where the light is. She turned around. Then I noticed that she wasn't propelling herself properly. I looked down, and then that's when I jumped in the pool, and I got a hold to her. I had they're drinking that wine. I think when I get to grabbing her, my body just floated right back up to the top. So at that time, I sort of panicked. I went and grabbed a pool pole, and I had 2 pool poles, and I realized the one I grabbed once I put it in the pool was too short. So I went and got the other, and I was able to get it under her, and then I leveraged her to near the coping. I jumped back into the water. I formed like a hook. I got under her body and I flipped her onto the coping. I then carried her over to where there was more light on the west side of the pool, and turned and started doing CPR. Then some kind of white stuff came out of her mouth, and at that time, I ran inside, called 911. I inadvertently told them 6433 hold, but I was just panicking. But I live at 6432. And I went back there and continued to try to doing CPR, and sounds were coming out. Then the paramedics got there. They rang the doorbell, I presume, and since I was in the backyard, didn't hear it. They jumped over the fence. They came there and they said, "We'll take over now." And they I started giving her CPR, and then it was seemed like they were busting some kind of a thing in her nose, trying to get her breathing again. But she was breathing. Then I heard the paramedics say, "We got a pulse now." So they said, "We're going to take her to Daniel Freeman." At that time, I had gone in my house and I'd put on my clothes, and then the sheriff had arrived, and that's when they asked me what happened, who she was, and I originally told them she's just a friend. I knew now that she's a Jackson, I knew there would be a lot of hoopla. So I called my brother, who lived down the street from me, who's an attorney, Larry. He came down and said with me. I explained it. At first, I called Sheila, my ex-wife. She came over, and she and Marla came over together. And then Donna was already there, and so then they took her to Daniel Freeman Hospital. At that time, I didn't tell the sheriff's a lot of things because I was just in shock. And when then they called and said that she had died, then the homicide sheriff Napper and Watkins came out about 6 or 7. They interviewed me for approximately 2 hours or so. And then I took them, they went to my house and found nothing amiss at all. They went outside where I told you I broke the glass. I showed them where the glass was. I told them how it was done. They looked at it, nothing of blood, nothing, and they didn't even remove the glass. And I said, and then he did what they call an astigmatism test, which tells whether or not your eyes bump around if you've been drinking. They said, I wasn't drunk, and they could tell I'd been drinking, but that was it. And so they didn't remove the glass that was broken at the pool. They didn't. They said in the report the house was well kept and tidy, and nothing's turned over, nothing. And the same with the backyard and the pool area. And after that, they left, and I didn't hear anything else other than the news media. They never talked to me again, until about 6 months, 7 months. They did call and they said, "We want to get those pool poles," and I gave them that. I told them they could come. They didn't need a search warrant, and so they came and picked them up. And I didn't hear anything for 2.5 years, and I presume that the major crime unit wanted them to get the pool poles to mark them. Yeah. And never hear anything.
So you had a question, Kim, about the investigation.
Yeah. Well, let's let's go back for a second.
Okay.
So, Don, that's a pretty intense thing that occurred, right? And you were enjoying the night, enjoying the pool. You had a glass of wine, maybe 2 glasses of wine. Yeah. Dolores had a couple of rum and Coke. Now, Dolores, when you realized that she was swimming these laps, all of a sudden she just wasn't swimming. and something didn't look right, you noticed that,
Right.
oh my gosh, something's wrong. You jump in, and because you had she was sunk. She was in the water.
She wasn't sunk, or she was just not propelling herself properly.
Okay, and she was too heavy to lift, so you weren't able to get her.
Well, no. The body on Ackermania's principle, a body only weighs the amount of water that it displaces. So the body is until it gains surface air, it's light. It weighs nothing. It's like, like you. I don't know what you weigh, but you would weigh, I would say 8 or 9 pounds negative in the water, as large as you are. You're bigger. Okay, so you only just the amount of water that you displace, that's your weight.
Right.
So you can. I'm glad you mentioned that. They show you how the lifeguard who investigated for the county of Los Angeles said would take superhuman strength to raise a body out of the water.
Because she had already ingested all of that water.
Even if she had, it's still, the body will only weigh what the amount of water is displaced. Therefore, as Dr. Ekstrom explained to Harlan Brown, which he didn't call, that it would be easy to just flip her, once you get out there. The reason remember I told you she had a seizure about maybe to around this, maybe a month or so inside the house.
Yes, you had shared that she had blacked out.
Yeah, she had a seizure, and then that's when I asked her. I said, she starts shaking and all kind of facial contortions. I said, "Are you on drugs or something? To do that? Because I'd never seen anything like that."
And so did that happen with somebody else there beside you, Don?
Yeah, Loretta Gilmore. I was told Ron about that, and another guy. But then she denied it under oath. But that's not true. And she never would give me the name of the other party. His name was Williams. He was a dentist in Washington, D.C. But that's just the truth. What happened? So. As Dr. Ekstrom explained at the evidentiary, it's just easy to lift her out of the water.
Right.
She would, because it'd only be like 6 pounds negative in the water, where the testimony of the lifeguard for the county said it would take superhuman strength. Now think about this. As an average citizen, you would think that too. I would think you would weigh, like I would think I'd weigh 180 pounds in the water, but no, I weigh about 6 pounds, you see. But the jury was left to believe that she weighed 140 pounds, 130 pounds, whatever she weighed. But that's untrue. She probably weighed 5 or 6 pounds negative. You see, that's why you can balance them on a pool pole or something like that. You see, but it's a fallacy to people. Unless you know this, and I didn't know this myself, incidentally.
Yeah.
All I know, it was easy to get her out.
So in layman's terms, what it sounds like to me is she had already ingested water. That body had taken on water. It was difficult to get her out. You ran back, got the pole. Shorter one didn't work. Went back, got the longer one, pulled her out, started giving her immediate CPR. White foam was coming out of her mouth, right? Yeah. You ran inside, but she wasn't alert yet. She wasn't totally alert when it came out. You ran inside, you called 911, and in the fury, you kind of, oh gosh, I can't imagine what that was like for you, but you gave them the wrong address, the next door address, right? And so they maybe took a little bit longer to get there than they should have. So a little bit of a miscalculation there, which is very common.
I don't think it took them a long time. It took them maybe about 5 minutes to get there.
Fantastic. And then they come, they assess the situation, they ask you the questions, they ask about the broken glass, I can imagine.
No, the sheriff, not the paramedics. Only the sheriff.
Only the sheriff. Okay. So
yeah,
the paramedics tried to resuscitate her.
With her.
And did they try to resuscitate her?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And then that's when they said they had a pulse and they took her to Daniel Freeman Hospital.
Okay. So when she left your house, she had a pulse.
Yes.
Hallelujah. That was like a hallelujah moment for you.
Well, yeah, I felt relieved. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Okay. Okay, good. So then did you get the phone call? Did you head over to the hospital? What did that look
No,
like?
no. I stayed there. The sheriffs that barred me from leaving, and
Oh,
then the sheriff's detective got there. That's when I found out she had expired.
oh God. Okay, stay right there. Don,
Hmm.
tell me about that moment because that
Oh yeah, that was just it was devastating. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. And sometimes I even today I can't believe it. You know, it's just unbelievable even now. Uh, just to think of it as something that started out as a peaceful evening
yeah,
ends up in such a tragic thing. No
yeah,
one. And then to top it off, then you hear all these craziness and these accusations, and what happened, but people just putting whatever they
right,
suspect,
right,
is building up, and saying what they want to say.
right. Well, it's kind of like, I mean, it's not the same thing, but all of the accusations about Michael Jackson, right? There were all of these accusations. So people like, well, it's on the media, so it's got to be true, especially back then, right? So you went 6 months, it was kind of quiet, but then
No,
you
it went
started,
more than it went a year and a half, 2 years quiet.
wow. And so now no bombardment from the media. Well,
No,
what don't you,
no,
okay,
I would hear things in the media, but
that-
that didn't bother me. Just they would plant stories out there.
yes,
That's when, and it really when the indictment came out on March the 7th, 1990. Let's see, he changed the autopsy on September the 10th, 1996, on a home computer. Then March the 7th, 1997, that's when I was indicted. Then from then on, I was it's been bombarded with these
yeah,
accusations, and that's when I went to Judge Leslie Light, and I explained to him at the time I was working building a couple of Carol's restaurants in mainland China for
okay,
the 2008 Olympics, and I had some Chinese partners, and I put quite a bit of money in that, and I was going back and forth to China. So when they took my passport, I still said, well, I can do this from LA on a telephone because I didn't have to be right there.
okay, John, let's just pause for a second. This is important, okay? Because I want to be able to connect the dots here. So at least I want our audience to be able to connect all the dots. So it had been about a year and a half, a good year and a half, some things in the media, nothing major.
No,
Why don't you go back for a second, distinguish what the results of the original autopsy were. Let's lay that foundation.
the original autopsy came back undetermined accident drowning.
Okay,
And
so
that
when was that original autopsy? When
done on I'll get you the exact date, but it was November 1994 or September.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it was signed out November 11th, 12th, 1994, a couple months after, but it was determined in September. The accident was August 27th, and it was determined.
Okay.
And
And who was it, John, that determined it? Who was the forensic pathologist who performed it?
He wasn't a pathologist. That's the point. Dr. Posey came up.
He wasn't a pathologist. Okay.
No, he was hired. This is what you got to understand. He was hired as a physician's assistant on July the 27th, 1994. A physician's assistant. The Los Angeles County coroner had numerous openings for pathologists. They knew he didn't qualify. They hired him as a physician's assistant because he presented that bogus certificate that said he was a pathologist. They never vetted him. And this is important. They never vetted him, but he worked on Fridays and Saturdays at the coroner's office. The accident was on a Friday night. Therefore, the body comes in there Saturday. He starts on it as the pathologist, but he wasn't. He was hired as a physician's assistant. That's his payroll title. That's what he was paid at. He took on the title, maybe the county let him, of a medical examiner.
And so, as the physician's assistant acting as a pathologist, what did he announce? What did he attribute the death to at that time?
He is undetermined.
Undetermined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I lost my thought. It was undetermined.
But that changed.
But then later on,
yeah,
he went and had Dr. Lashmanan. He wanted to change. Dr. Lashmanan told him to leave it. Dr. Lashmanan is the Los Angeles County appointed elected coroner.
So that was Dr. Posey.
Wait, hold on a second. Dr. Lashmanan told him to leave it as it is, and he, on his own volition, changes it. And then he changes this autopsy. This is important. On September the 10th, 1996, to assistant drowning homicide. He had turned on his badge on the 31st he resigned 31st of January. He turned in his keys on February the 14th, 1995. How in the world could he have gotten in to do any kind of work on this case? Because he can't get into the building. It's all secure. And so he changed this at his home computer with misspelled words. But what's more important, Dr. Lashmanan in 2000 and would be 2000. No, in 1998, when it's 1997, excuse me, when I was charged March the 7th, he co-signed it based on the same evidence that he rejected in 1996.
Okay, pause right there. This is important because I don't want us to lose who the people are here that we're talking about. So we're talking about the supposed pathologist who was a physician's assistant, and his name again is?
Dr. David Posey.
Dr. David Posey. Now,
who was hired as a physician's assistant, not as a pathologist.
Got it. And he was hired as a pathologist, even though he was not qualified.
No, he wasn't hired. No, this is important. Okay. He was hired as a physician's assistant. That's his payroll title.
Got it.
And we have to make people know his payroll title was a physician's assistant, not a pathologist. Okay. If they wanted to hire him as a pathologist, his paperwork says physician's assistant. And I think you have a copy of that.
Okay, yes. Why is this so important?
Because it shows that the county knew he wasn't qualified. They could have hired 10 or 12. They had bodies laying all in the floor, if you remember, in 1994, because they had no pathologists to take care to do autopsies. So they were taking anybody who came in, and they gave them a title, and then you do the wide cut on this body and certify what it is. Most of them people are drunk or whatever happened on. That's why he was there on the weekends, Friday and Saturday.
Okay,
he became a
certified that it was an accident, right?
Pardon?
He certified that it was an accident.
First, he said undetermined accident.
Undetermined.
But he couldn't certify. He did that. And he had to have Dr. Lashmanan co-sign it. He could not legally do it himself.
And who is this other doctor?
Dr. Lashmanan.
Who is that doctor?
Huh?
Who is that doctor?
He is the Los Angeles County coroner.
Ah.
Let's make sure you got this correct. He is appointed by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, all 5 members, as the coroner for Los Angeles County. Just like Luna is appointed as the sheriff of Los Angeles County. Okay? Just like McDowell is appointed as the police chief of Los Angeles City. Posey could not become a deputy medical examiner. Why? Because he wasn't hired as a medical examiner. He was hired as a physician's assistant. Although he signed his name as a deputy medical examiner. And no one questioned it. But here, you got to hear this better. You got to hear this. He allegedly did this forensic pathology on Dolores in September of 1994. On October 31st, and I think I gave a copy of this, he applied to the Long Beach Medical Association for a position as an osteopath. He put his specialty down as osteopathic medicine. He made no mention of being a forensic pathologist. Why? Because he had the same kind of bogus certificate for osteopath, which he got from the same place where he got the certificate for pathology, okay, where he got the certificate. The difference is the Long Beach Medical Association did a background and vetted him, and they rejected him right on the spot. That is the difference. The Los Angeles County should have rejected him right on the spot.
Okay, I have a question. So did Dr. Posey, was his supervisor this Dr.
Lakshmanan?
That was his supervisor.
Yeah, he and Dr. Christopher Rogers, both of them were certified pathologists. Christopher Rogers signed his employment as a physician's assistant. He hired him as a physician's assistant. He could have hired, if he was a qualified person, he would have hired him as a pathologist, deputy medical examiner.
If there was an actual pathologist at that time, what would they have seen?
I can't say. I would suspect. I can't say. I would tend to think, sans political influence, they would have said an undetermined accident, and which it was, and that's what Lakshmanan made him sign it out. However, Posey went on his own at the behest of the Jackson family and Brian Oxman and changed it. And that's where it gets so clear. Look at here. He changed it on September the 10th, 1996. He changed it from undetermined accident to assistant drowning homicide. He did that.
What was the time frame? What was that time frame from death, the first call of that death, to that time period? How much?
Okay, well, we figured out 1994 to September 96 was 2 years, 2.5 years.
So they went back and changed it because of a conversation with the Jacksons.
The Jacksons. Yeah, they made him change it. Well, he said, oh my goodness. He said that
you're doing great, Don. I just want to make sure we get it all out to the audience.
He said he needed somebody to tell. He needed somebody to tell him where these scratches and on the body came from. He needed somebody to tell him. Unfortunately, that is the job of the forensic pathologist, to tell you where scratches and bullets. One second.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. At the time of trial, I thought he was a pathologist because no one knew at the time. Only thing I said at the time of trial, that he did not know what he was talking about. I said, in my trial testimony, I said, this man is all over the field. He has no idea what he's talking about. Therefore, it's like when a police officer in uniform gives you a ticket, then walks into the courtroom in a suit, you assume he's a police officer. You don't ask him to show his badge and ID, before he takes the stand.
Don, who was it or what caused the change in the cause of death from undetermined to homicide-assisted drowning?
Well, I can answer that question point blank.
Wow, what a powerful way to begin this story. Don, thank you for your unbreakable courage. For 25 years, you refused to lie, refused to take the easy way out, and stood on your innocence. Ronald, thank you for sitting with us and helping bring this truth forward. To every single one of you watching right now, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring about real justice. If this interview is hitting you in the heart like it's hitting me, do me a favor right now. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. Go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's takeyourpowerbackshow.com for every show we've ever done and all the truth we're still bringing. Part 2 drops next week, same time, same place, for the exclusive interview. After 25 years in prison, Don Bohana finally tells his full story, the Michael Jackson family drowning case. You are not going to want to miss what Don reveals next. The truth is breaking through. Don Bohana is still fighting, and so are we. This is Kim Yeater with the Take Your Power Back Show. I'll see you next week. Stay strong, stay empowered, and keep taking your power back.
Thank you for joining us for the Take Your Power Back Show. As Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach Kim Yeater speaks to other freedom-loving Americans that are making a positive impact in the world by standing in truth amid adversity. Listen in weekly and learn how to take your power back in your freedom, in your personal and professional life, in technology and creativity, and in your faith. Be encouraged, be inspired, be transformed as you step into your power and take action in your leadership and allow your voice to be heard. Together, let's take your power back. To sponsor and support the Take Your Power Back Show, go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's takeyourpowerbackshow.com and take your power back.